I met a top secret agent for the government today. I just arrived home after taking an Uber, and it was a pretty eerie slash scary Uber drive home. I was driven by this Arab man from Tunisia. He was probably in his late 60s, um, and his English was just like imagine like an old Arab uncle. That's like the way his English sounded. And I hopped in the car, got on at Flinders Street, and he drove me home after I just watched Zakir Khan's live show. And it was a pretty interesting Uber ride. He shared a lot of stories and stuff. But the first thing that happened is as soon as I got in the car, he asked me if I was Indian, and I was like, yes, I was. And then once I told him I was Indian, he told me that in this country, in Australia, if I can't hear something, don't say huh, like don't say those things. Rather say, excuse me, please, could you repeat that? Excuse me, I beg your pardon. And the reason he said those things is as I was hopping into the car, he said like sit in the front or don't sit in the front, but he had a heavy accent and he also didn't say it loud, and I was outside the car. So I didn't hear what he said. So as I opened the door, I was like, huh? Like, what did you say? And it's a sort of a habit of mine, and maybe it's a habit that all Indians have, and it's a habit in my culture potentially. But anyway, he gave me that advice, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like, thank you for sharing that advice. And then for the rest of the ride, he just like, yeah, gave me lots and lots of advice for lots of different things. He was, telling me if I ever drove Uber, like what times I should drive in the week. Told me the story of this one incident where a girl, sort of basically, a girl like said that he allegedly touched her, like as the Uber driver, and then he wanted to take the girl to court, and then she was like, you know what, no, he actually didn't touch me, and he was telling me about the importance of having cameras in Ubers and whatever. But then I sort of asked him, like, what he did for a job and stuff, because obviously he was driving Uber, but he said he was only doing that part time. He said he spent 12 years in New Zealand, and since spending 12 years in New Zealand, he spent the last 26 years in Australia. And it's 2025, so 1999, that's when he would have come to Australia. And he said that currently he works for the government. And I was like, oh yeah, like what sort of government work? And he says it's top secret, he can't talk about it. And it was really weird when he said that, um, because it just felt a little weird. And then in the middle of the car ride, his dash cam stopped working, and he sort of, where you put your sunglasses in a car, like you like click this button and it comes out from the top, like right where the lights are, in the front part of the car. He opened that up and he had a lot of SD cards in there, and he like he basically was like, hey, can you help me change the SD card? So I helped change the SD card on his dash cam, and as I do that, like obviously, like the dash cam was quite small and it was quite dark. So I'm trying to like find the SD card slot and try and take it out. Then he pulls out a flashlight, so I use the flashlight, open it out, and then his new SD cards were in like a packet, and I was having difficulty opening that packet. And then he says to me, "Do you want a knife?" And I was like, "No, no, no, it's okay." And I opened it, and in the moment, I didn't realize or I didn't clock it. Um, and then later, like when I helped him, like you know, uh, like reset the SD card and put in the camera, and I was just silent. It was an Uber pool as well because I wanted to see, because I've never done an Uber pool, how it worked. Now I know, probably won't do it again. And at the time there was probably another dude in the back. I can't remember, because I was sitting in the front. And then after like a few minutes, I clocked the fact that this dude was like, "Hey, like I work for the government. I can't tell you what it is." And like I just felt eerie, felt a little bit off. And then he was like, "Do you want a knife?" Which means he had a knife in the car. And that was a pretty, yeah, that was pretty crazy. Um, Regardless, I think the reason I'm telling you the story is that honestly, whenever you take an Uber, bro, just sit in the back. Um, just sit in the back. Um, and the only reason I said this is because I was so close to this dude that like, if like, like from a safety perspective, this dude could have been whoever, right? And also, like when I looked at his profile, I also just felt eerie about the guy. Like the guy gave me weird vibes. And look, I could just be overanalyzing all of this sort of stuff, Um, but for me, like I just felt off. And I was reflecting, and I was like, damn, um, is this how women feel? Like just generally, like because I have a lot of female friends that tell me how unsafe they feel when they're walking alone in the evenings at night, when they're taking Ubers back. And as a guy, like I've never just felt that, and I think I felt it today. So I really empathized with women and some of my female friends, but also just generally other people who just have felt the way that I felt today. And also in the like previously, my dad has also driven a lot of Uber, um, and I sort of empathized even more for him. And as a result of today's experience, my appreciation for the sacrifice that he's made by working, Uber and driving Uber for many many years, it sort of leveled up a lot because I realized like damn like it's like just as if I felt unsafe. I'm sure like the driver, and he was telling me, and one of the questions I ask anytime I hop in an Uber is like, what's the craziest stories you've had as a driver? And they always tell me stories where they just feel unsafe. And I'm sure my dad's felt that way, but he doesn't really communicate it to me. So yeah, I realized that um, that's probably yeah been through a lot. So um, yeah, real weird experience. I just wanted to share. The reason I was telling you all of this stuff is so in the future you can sit in the backside of an Uber, and also so I could document this story. Cool. I don't know if you found this helpful, but yeah, glad that that's over.